Meeting of the El Paso Central Appraisal District to order. If we can all please stand for the pledge.
I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Oh, we have honor.
Texas flag. I pledge
allegiance to Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
I never remember.
I know.
Never known that one. Okay. It's still here.
Okay, we will do a roll call. I believe Mr. Joshua Acevedo.
The chairman, he called and was going to be out of town.
Okay, Mr. Khalil Avalos.
Avalos here.
Mr. Berg.
Here.
Mr. Haggerty.
Mr. Haggerty is a new board member representing Isleta ISD, and he came in for a visit with us and got his packet, but said he would be out of town, and we called to verify.
Mr. Mena.
Present.
Walter Miller is here. Mr. Ramirez.
Present.
Mr. Stout.
We've not heard from Mr. Stout, and Miss York did call us and tell us she was ill.
Okay. Mr. Stout is in the middle of a campaign.
Yes, Mr. Stout's running for office.
Oh, that's right.
He is.
That's
But it's not until
March
Okay.
1st.
March.
That is the roll call. We welcome our
Welcome.
newest member, Mr. Ramirez.
Thank you.
Very nice to have you.
There's Mr.
There's
Stout.
Mr. Stout.
See, he's here. I
Are
told you.
you here,
That's
Mr.
your
Stout?
block walking.
No.
Just missed the roll call.
I said you were going to be here. I knew you'd be here.
Over here.
Mr. Stout, are you here?
I feel like I'm here.
Well, good. You answered roll call. Great.
Yes, he is here.
Okay. I'm sorry. Now, if we could, is the judge, we'll have to wait on the judge just a moment.
Is the judge here yet, Dina?
And we'll have to do our.
He's
oath.
on his way. Here he is. We pull out all the stops.
Wow.
Every year we do have you give you the oath as being a board member, and we are so lucky that we have it official with our judge. So he's going to give the oath to you, and then the others that are not here, they just get it given to them by the secretary. So. They miss the good stuff. So I'm not sure how the judge wants to do that.
Any way he wants to.
Anyway, yes, you're right about that.
The answer.
And we really appreciate him taking the time to come here.
Judge, you're up.
Good idea.
Well, thank you for inviting me again this year. I don't know how many years it's been, but time passes pretty quickly nowadays. I'm Judge Eduardo Gamboa. I'm the statutory probate, one of them. There's 2 here in El Paso, 18 of us in Texas. Statutory probate judge, we obviously handle probate matters. We handle guardianship matters, and then we have a courtroom in the El Paso Psychiatric Center, which we handle the mental hearings. And this year has been very trying. I think the 2 courts that we have here have really never stopped working, because at one point, we're doing 16 probates a day. It sort of has slowed down, but we're still seeing a lot of them, due to the COVID plus the other deaths that we handle. So thank you very much. And I was going to insert in the oath of office for you to not raise my taxes anymore, but I don't think that's proper. All righty. So everybody that's going to get sworn in, please stand up and raise your right hand, please. For me. And repeat after me. I state your name.
Walter Miller.
Do solemnly swear
Do solemnly swear
that I will faithfully execute the duties
that I will faithfully execute the duties
of the office as a member of the board
of the office of member of the board,
of directors of the El Paso Central Appraisal
directors
District
of the El Paso Central Appraisal District
of the state of Texas,
of the state of Texas,
and will, to the best of my ability,
And will to
will
the
to the best of my ability
preserve, protect,
protect,
defend the Constitution
and defend the Constitution
and the laws of the United States of
Laws of
America
the
laws of the United States
and of this state.
and of this state.
So help me
so
God.
help me God.
Thank you for your service.
This is just an affidavit. We don't have to swear to this one. Thank you. Judge,
No, I don't think so. Dina?
do you do the affidavit also?
Yeah, I can sign it.
No, you just sign it. Yeah.
Whatever I need to sign.
Everybody, you should have the affidavit and the oath for your signatures. You just sign them and leave them to the side. Dina and Cynthia will pick them up afterwards. So thank you, Judge Gamboa. We appreciate
Thank
it.
you.
Thank you, Judge.
Okay. We can go to item number 2 on the agenda, and it's election of Board of Officers for the 2022 Board of Directors. Up for office are office of Chair, Vice Chair, and
Secretary.
Secretary. So at this time, I would entertain motion or entertain nominations for Chair. Mr. Berg.
Mr. Miller, I'd like to nominate Ed Minna for chair, but only with the caveat that you stay on as the vice chair. So I think that I'd like to, maybe if I can make 2 nominations at one time, I'd like to nominate Ed Minna as chair and Walter Miller as vice chair.
And I'll second that motion, that nomination. I've been vice chair for 2 years. So unless I'm going to be chair, which I'm not interested in being chair, and Mr. Mena is more than capable of doing it, I am fully supportive.
Thank you, I didn't even know.
Fully supporting of that nomination.
So we do have a nomination for Chair and Vice Chair, Mr. Mena and myself. Are there further nominations?
Mr. Burke, would you be opposed to be nominated for secretary?
No, not for sec, I don't have a problem with that. That'll be fine.
Would you accept that nomination?
Yes, I would accept that.
I'll nominate Mr. Berg to serve as secretary.
Can we go to the first motion first?
That's what I was
Okay,
wanting
we
to
have a
get
motion
these out.
or a nomination on the floor for Chair and Vice Chair through Mr. Berg. So I will close the nominations if it's okay, if it satisfies everyone, and we'll put it to all in favor of that.
I actually move that these 2 people be elected by acclamation.
Is there a second to that motion?
Somebody second.
I'll second.
Okay, so we have a motion from Mr. Berg and a second from Mr. Avalos for those 2 nominations. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, that's good. So now,
Is that what the bylaws say, that he takes over at the same meeting?
That's right at
Wow.
I always wanted to do that.
So is that hammer to knock Tanny and
Yeah, I
that
was
one's to
gonna
knock?
Yeah.
Okay. So now we move to secretary. Do I have a
nominate
nomination for
Mr. Berg
secretary?
to serve as secretary?
second.
I got a motion from Freddie and a second from Mr. Miller. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Mr. Secretary?
Thank you all.
Okay, with that said, we move on to number 3, public comment.
Board members, we do not have anyone signed up for public comment at this time.
Okay. Number 4, approval and signing of the minutes from November 18th, 2021 meeting.
I read those minutes, I move that we approve them.
So I have a motion from Mr. Berg. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Mr. Miller. Second from Mr. Miller. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Then number 5, taxpayer liaison report.
Board members, Tracy Carter will give you a taxpayer liaison report. She's also going to introduce to the board the new officers of the Appraisal Review Board that the judge appointed.
Good evening, Board of Directors. Tracy Carter, Taxpayer Liaison Officer. I want to let you know I provided you all with a blue folder. Inside of it is an administrative complaint. And on that complaint, it states, on December 29, 2021, the property owner filed an administrative complaint form that states, I have been living at the above address for 30 years. I did not receive a written appraisal of the property value and assessed taxes, and therefore was unable to timely protest any increased valuation and tax increase. Also, I have yet to receive a billing for taxes for the upcoming year. It appears to be an instance of negligence on the part of your office, as I see reason to think the omissions as intentional. Your prompt response is requested. Well, on December 30th, Mrs. Kilgore did respond to the email explaining that the notice of appraised value was mailed out to his property that we have on file on 824 De Leon Drive. And then on January 10th, I contacted Mr. Triana to explain to him that he had options on how to protest the value and that the notice of appraised value was mailed out to him on April the 2nd of 2021. And that we did send it to the address on file, and I verbally verified the address with him that we have. I told him that his property tax value for 2021 was at $151,686, and that it was lower than the 2020 value at $156,331. Mr. Triana then said, okay, in that case, there's no reason to protest if it is lower, if the property is lower. And I sent him also, again, I sent him another copy of the appraised value. And he notified me, he told me that if he does not receive it, he'll give me a call back. So I did not receive a call back from him.
Thank you.
Thank you. And I do want to mention that Judge Chu did appoint the Appraisal Review Board for the tax year 2022. And this year, currently right now, we are in session for the Appraisal Review Board for the late protest. And I would like to introduce to you all the officers that Judge Chu appointed. So if you all can please come up. Sylvia Calderon, ARB Chairman. Please. Mr. Luis Mona, Vice Chairman / Secretary. Mr. Roberto Urrea, Deputy Secretary. And I know Ms. Calderon would like to say a few words to you all. So please.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Tracy. Good evening, board members. I just want to say that it's a privilege to serve as the ARB chair once again. I also want to thank you for your continued support. And we created another position so we can have a continuum based on the changes of legislation. And here's looking for a productive and successful 2022 year. And if you have any questions.
Good job.
Okay. Thank you. Louis, did you want to say anything? Thank you, board members.
Thank you. Thank you.
And hopefully, Board of Directors, by the next few months, I'll have the results of the ARB surveys to present to you all. Thank you so much, and you all have any questions for me?
Any questions from the board?
Are there any violent or funny ARB hearing stories? Anybody thrown stuff at you guys?
Too many to talk about in a short period of time.
Only imagine. Thank you, Ms. Carter.
Thank you.
So now we move on to item number 6, Chief Appraiser's Report.
Board members, I just wanted to give you an update. Starting this past Tuesday, we started on the 18th and we'll go till next Monday with our ARB Appraisal Review Board hearings on motions. Those are your late protests. And so those hearings have been going on. We had over 1,000 protests filed for this week that we're having hearings. The week of November, in November, we also had late hearings and finished up our timelies, and we had over 1,200 filed. Most of those are residential. People have received their tax bill, and so they're coming in with evidence and information and having their hearings. So I wanted to tell you that's what was happening this week. Next week, starting Tuesday, we will have the mobile unit. We met with the city tax office this morning and the Miracle Delivery folks that will have a mobile unit out in our parking lot so that property owners from Tuesday to Friday and then the following Monday, which is the 31st, which is the payment deadline for taxes because they go delinquent on February 1st, they'll be able to come to this mobile unit and they'll be able to pay by cash, by check, by money order, by cashier's check, but not by credit card. But they will have a flyer that they can give to the people that then will explain to them how to do. You have to get online or through the phone to do the credit card. You can't can't do it in person because there's a fee that's attached to that. The tax office, city tax office, is also going to provide us with a drop box. So if people just want to drop it off and not stand in line outside, because it is outside, the drop box will be inside and they can just drop it off, and the tax office will come every day and empty the drop box. Tracy Carter will be assisting as the liaison officer. If there is a property owner that you have to have your current tax bill, they will not accept payments for back taxes that you may owe, only for the current 2021. And if you did not bring your tax bill, then Ms. Carter will assist with the property owner to print a tax bill. And we are doing that for no charge to help with the property owners to be able to pay their taxes and not have to go back home and come back again. So we will be we'll be assisting with that. So that's going on next week. In February, we will have the financial audit. We'll send that to you in advance. We will have the people from Menon Associates give you an update on our financial audit. We'll be doing that in March. Our appraisal staff will give you a review because notices will be going out the first part of April, kind of give you an idea of what we're going to be doing. Wanted to let you know that we did receive the latest aerials. We just got those in, and we're downloading those into our system. Once they're downloaded, then the taxing entities will be able to receive those. We send those to MPO, 911, Roads and Bridges. There's a list of folks that receive those, and that's free. We give that to them. They pay into our budget. This is something that we can give to them. And the only other thing I have is, which you may be asking, parking lot update. Should be finished by next week. They're doing a really awesome job of getting it done. They're putting a sealant. They're all the way down to where they need to be, putting a sealant on there. Then they'll come in and put the foam and then the rebar and then pour the first level of concrete, and then the next level should be done by next Wednesday. So I think that's all, unless anybody has any questions or any updates.
Chairman, I have a question on the process. So, can you explain to me, like, what a little bit more about the process for the late protests?
Okay, yes, sir. A property owner is entitled to file a late protest, but only on specific circumstances. And we do have Mr. Longoria, our attorneys here, so he can go into it. A property owner can file if they feel like there is a clerical error. We have it down as a house, and it's an office. An obvious clerical error. An error in judgment is not a clerical error. It has to be an obvious. Or they can file on what they call a 1/3 value difference or a 1/4 value difference. If it's their homestead, then they can file a 1/4. And what that means, if they have evidence that shows that the value of their home is a fourth less than what we noticed them on, then they can qualify. Now, there is a penalty, I believe it's a 10% penalty that gets applied to that for that late protest. But they have to be heard by the Appraisal Review Board. The appraisal district cannot just hear them and grant it because it's after the fact. Okay. Now, all this has to be filed for your 1/3 and 1/4 differences by the end of this month, by the end of January.
So the 1/3 is for
businesses or rental properties,
and
or
1/4 is
1/4 is homestead.
Okay,
Yes,
and so if somebody files a 1/3, and so if they would have to get like an appraisal done, like to pay for an appraisal or something like that to be able to prove what
they would
the
have
value.
to prove. Yes, sir. When you come to a late protest now, the burden of proof has switched from the appraisal district to the property owner. Okay. So what they could do is, if they're talking about damage, is bring in pictures and estimation of damages. They contracted somebody who gave them an estimate of what it's going to cost. An appraisal, a sale. Maybe they sold it, we weren't aware of it, because we don't get sales information. So there are different things that they can bring in. And it's up to the Appraisal Review Board to see that they qualify for a hearing and then to hear the evidence. Okay. So that's all done through the
But typically, like an independent appraisal, that would be sufficient evidence?
Yes. Well, it could be. I'm not going to say it would be, but yeah.
Okay.
It depends on what the appraisal is done for. Sometimes an appraisal is done for, if they were to change the use, what would the appraisal be? So we'd have to look at that. But that is a good a good piece of evidence that
Okay,
they could bring
and
in.
then is it common that when somebody brings in that appraisal, that the value of the property is actually put at the level that the third party appraisal was done? Or
It just depends on the appraisal. I mean, I can't tell you it happens all the time. It would depend on when was the appraisal done? What is the content of the appraisal? Was it done for financing, or was it done to put it on the market?
Okay.
And was it done for heirship? You know, they're transferring the ownership, and does it include, if it's a business appraisal, does it include the business worth? So we would have to look at it.
What if it was done just for this purpose?
It's the same thing. We'd still have to look at it to see. Yes, sir. But the reason we try to have these hearings in January, because February 1 they go delinquent. They have to have paid something on their tax bill. If they've gotten their tax bill and they're protesting it, they have to pay at least on a portion they feel is the true value or correct value. They can pay the whole thing, but something has to be paid. If they pay zero, then they no longer qualify to have a late hearing, or what they call a 25-25. So we try to have these hearings because once February 1st is they're delinquent, and if they paid no taxes, then the A or B cannot hear them. They will hear them and explain to them that, but they won't be able to change anything because they didn't. So when people file for those late protests in our office, we have special stamps that we explain to them what they have to meet, and when they have to be heard, and that they have to pay, a portion of property taxes. We have them initial those little boxes so that they know we've explained it to them, so they're not surprised later. And that's why we really try to push to have as many of those protest hearings as we can in January before the taxes go delinquent.
Do they have to have an official appraisal?
They have to have something because the burden is on them to prove what the value is. So they have to have something.
So they have a home and it burns down, and it's between the time it's appraised and the time the tax bill comes.
If they wouldn't qualify because it's January 1. We go by January 1. So if the home burned down after January 1, it'd be for the next year.
Okay, but
we would not be able to do anything for this year. And again, it's up to the ARB, the Appraisal Review Board, to determine if that evidence is enough evidence to warrant a change under the law. Yeah. Yeah.
Just to add to what Diana was saying, we had a lot of issues this summer because a lot of people were protesting for the first time, and everybody, when I spoke to the public at Zoom meetings, everybody was always asking, what do we need to do? What do we need to do? Two things that I want to emphasize. If you're going to claim that you have damages to your home, having the estimates is not enough. You need to take pictures and bring in the pictures, because in the past we've had people get estimates, and you can get an estimate for whatever you want, and we need evidence that the ARB can see that there is damage, and then that will back up the estimate that you bring in. The second issue that we had a lot was getting a comparable sale on their property. And we used to tell people, well, just go to a realtor and they can run a comparable report for you. The problem that we have is a lot of the realtors do a superficial comp report, and they do not adjust the comp properties to the subject property. If they don't adjust the comps to the subject, that's not a valid comparable sale report, and usually the ARB will not accept that. So if the taxpayer wants to bring in a comparable sales report, they have to make sure that it's done properly and that the comparable properties are adjusted to match the subject property.
And same thing with the 25-25. But at that point, it's on the burden. The burden is on the property owner to bring in the evidence as to why they want the value lowered and what the value is that they want.
So our appraisals are generally done on market values. I mean,
Yes, sir. Market and equity.
My question is, there's always, if there's an error in the square footage placed on our report that they get, is that substantial evidence? In other words, if somebody says, if we say that they've got an 8,000 square foot property and they can show us they only have a 4,000 square foot property, and that we might have created that value based on square footage and not on market assessment, is that a valid argument to be
For a
able to get a
late
variance?
protest? No, sir. In fact, Rick, if you want to expand on that. For a timely protest, yes, we can do something.
For a timely protest, but
Right,
not
but for a late
protest.
protest, it doesn't, it's
So
not
that is
considered.
not sufficient evidence in
Right.
order to warrant a late protest?
Right, we would
That's
correct it
not one
for
of the
the
errors that,
That's right, that's what I was asking.
Yeah, if an error, a clerical error would be, we meant to put 10,000 and we put 100,000. That's an obvious clerical error. We wrote in the wrong address, so they didn't get their notice. Failure to deliver notice is another one. We put in the wrong address. So an obvious error that was made by typing something in wrong or inputting. A judgment call is not considered a clerical. But here again, it's up to the appraisal review board to determine that. So that's why they have to go, that's why we have over 1,000 cases, because the appraisal review board is the one that determines does it meet it. So, okay.
thank you for that information.
Mr. Chairman, I have a really quick question, and maybe off the top of your head, or you might not have the information, but I wanted to ask if there was an update regarding the outlets. I remember around this time last year, we were involved in some litigation, and the reason that I'm asking is because I know they just really recently filed for bankruptcy.
Really?
It's not agendized, so I really can't.
You really can't, so it's not a
Can't
general
talk to
question?
that, but
Okay,
I'll visit with you afterwards.
thank you.
Yeah.
Any further questions?
Yes, sir.
No?
I'm done. Thank you.
You're done?
Thank you, board.
Okay. At this time, we will move on to executive session.
Mr. Chairman, we don't have anything scheduled for executive
There's
session.
nothing for executive session. At this time, is there nothing else?
No, sir.
So I will adjourn the meeting. I need a motion to adjourn, please. Adjourned by Mr. Berg. Is there a second?
Second?
Avalos, all those in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Meeting adjourned
At what time, sir?
at, where's my phone?
Oh, time.
Exactly 5:30.
5:29.
Okay.
Meeting adjourned. Thank you, guys. And I will not stick around. I will